Hi, Paul Sakis, Good News Broadcast, speaking of Louis Eguaras. Hi, Louis, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Okay, good. We've spoken before.
Yeah, definitely, I remember.
Doing some good things here. Currently a chef at Le Cordon Bleu, a program at California School of Culinary Arts. You have it's a book, right? 101 Things I Learned in Culinary School. Okay.
Exactly.
And there's a website here, there's chefs.edu, there's 101thingsIlearned.com. And where are you? You're literally in California, are you?
I'm in California. I'm located in Pasadena. The school, the Cordon Bleu College of Culinary Arts, is actually located in Pasadena. But we also have another school in Hollywood. So we're known as Los Angeles, but we cater in Pasadena and in Hollywood.
Okay. Now I had a very special evening last night. I went to the James Beard Awards event here at Avery Fisher Hall, as they deem the Oscars of
yes,
food.
Definitely. We sent them a copy of the book, so hopefully they get a chance to take a look at it.
Wow, it was a very special evening. Now, which all goes to prove that food is prime time.
Yes.
And making food in an unusual way or in an ordinary way, in a way that some people can't make at home, really I think can change someone's life. So what's going to be with your book? Is that going to help people do that?
Well, what really, when I started writing the book with, and then Matthew Frederick actually guided me as far as how he wanted to have it look and how it wanted to feel and everything else. The main concept was that I wanted to address the reader, my students, and those who are interested in getting into culinary arts. And so there's a lot of insight that I've learned in my 20 years experience in dealing in the culinary arts. Not only where you have, plate presentation, but you're also talking about philosophy of being in the kitchen, the long hours that you're going to be in the kitchen, what it takes to be a chef, what's the difference between a cook and what's the difference between a chef. And so, all these things kind of come into play, and I try to hit as much of the field as I can with the book. And so with the 101 lessons, you're actually getting 202 lessons because each lesson that I have, it was illustrated by Matthew Frederick. And that illustration is a lesson as well.
Okay. Well, in essence, as show business is business, and either you're going to be in business or you're going to be probably more than likely out of show business, the same thing would be right here. It's a business. This is hard work business. Mm-hmm. The best will succeed more than likely, the ones that are working the hard, the most creative, and so on and so forth.
Exactly.
Do you see that similarly?
Oh, yes. And I always tell my students that, the harder you work, it's going to pay off in the long run. Everybody looks for monetary gain right away. And I tell them, I said, don't look for monetary gain. Look to improve your skills in the long run. And as you do that, you will get notoriety. Don't look for notoriety. It'll come to you. And so with hard work, it's the same thing. Work hard. Eventually somebody's going to say, this is a very talented person, and will take that, young chef and then elevate that young chef. But it all goes through hard work.
Okay. So I'm looking at page 88, select flour by protein content. So this is educational, right?
Exactly. So each page is a means to address a certain topic, okay? And so lesson number 88, okay, would be select flour by protein content. And on the other side, on 87, you will see the certain percentage of protein content for that flour. So, for instance, you have 12% to 14%, and then you have the flour type. So it all depends on what your purpose is for that flour. Then you can take the next step forward.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so you have those kinds of types of lessons. And then I also have, several quotes. So one of my favorite quotes is by Conrad Hilton, who's, from the Hilton Hotels. And he states this, and we were talking about working hard. So he says, success seems to be connected with action. Successful people keep on moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. And so that's what I always kind of instill in my students.
Okay, sounds good. Give us another lesson here.
So another lesson, for instance, I like to give my students tips on what inexperienced cooks would do. So I list down on lesson 38 10 mistakes of the inexperienced cook. So for instance, we have improper or inadequate mise en place. Mise en place is the way you prepare your ingredients prior to cooking or prior to executing your meal. So improper or inadequate mise en place would be one of the lessons. So you have to have your foundations set first prior to even cooking. Another one mistake would be poor timing, which results in food not being completed in the proper sequence. Or not reading or knowing the recipe before starting. A lot of people, I tell my students, read the recipe twice and then read it again. So you always want to make sure that you know what you're doing prior to getting in. And so that's, a lot of it, and I've had some other chefs take a look at it, and at first glance they felt that it was going to be dumbed down information, but after reading the book they realized that, this is actually, straight to the point lessons that everybody can actually learn from. And the book is actually, it's almost like a 3x5 card. So it fits in your jacket, it fits in your toolbox, it's very convenient, you can read it anywhere, it's not cumbersome at all, and it's something that everybody can just brings around with them as far as young chefs or chefs that's going to be going to other fields and whatnot. So one of my students, I also teach high school, so I give it to my high school students. It's a recommended reading for them because a lot of them are very interested in going to Le Cordon Bleu and attending Le Cordon Bleu. So I want to give them a lot of these lessons already ahead of time.
Now, you were a former chef in the White House, right?
Right. I was one of the chefs with the Navy at the White House, and so there's the Navy side, which is the White House staff mess, and then there's the main residence side, which I also worked with Chef Scheib. And so yeah, that was a great experience.
But what is your pursuit to education aspect of cooking?
Well, it actually happened by accident. When I was home one time, and I was going to school, finishing up my degree, because one of the things that I wanted to do is better myself, and so I was going to school, and I was teaching my wife how to cook, because my wife didn't know how to cook, and she was saying, what, why don't you take a look at teaching, because you actually explain things very thoroughly, and you're very patient, because she's an instructor, so she teaches college. And so I started taking a look at it, and so it's an avenue that took me from being in the kitchen and taking me into the classroom, but still being around my environment. So once I got my degree, I got my first degree in history because I love history, and I applied that to food history, so I teach that here at Le Cordon Bleu. And then I also applied that with one things I learned in culinary school, because I really think that by understanding your history, you can understand where you're going as far as a chef. Because that's the kind of thing I was telling you earlier. There's a philosophy of being a chef. There's an understanding of where food comes from that you have to know, to be a true culinarian, so to speak. So that's how I got into teaching. I started teaching my wife, and eventually, I improved my skills as far as teaching, and right now I've taught basically every class in Le Cordon Bleu, from intro to intro 2 to garde manger to international cuisine and so forth.
I thought this was a good quote last night by one of the renowned chefs of the world. I asked him, what is your favorite dish? Okay, what's your favorite dish? And his answer was, the next dish I create.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one, right?
That's a good one, yeah.
So in essence, it's forward motion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's confidence in yourself, in essence, that you're going to make another dish, right?
Exactly.
And not going to live on your laurels, right?
Right, exactly.
And so that's kind of summed it all up for me. It was a really, I didn't have anything else to say. I had to just say
it's very Zen-like, and that's the type. The book is one of those things where, like, each page, it's not a lot of things to say, but it says it in a way that you take something out of it right away. So, and that quote that right there that you just told me, that's a great one.
Yeah. Well, I like that kind of book. I'm not.
I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you're going to like it a lot.
And so it's coming out in.
It's coming out in May 20th. But it's available on Amazon.com right now. In fact, under the vocationals portion in Amazon, I'm number 1. So it already had that number one.
Yay,
on it.
congratulations to you.
Thank you. And then Publishers Weekly gave me a starred review, and one of their quotes was that it's all meat and no fat. so I said, oh, that's cool. I like that one.
Well, congratulations, Louis.
Thank you so much.
Last question, then. What's good news for you? I guess your book and life.
The book, yeah.
Well.
And then and so my whole thing is just sharing my knowledge and just being there for my students and for whoever else sparks up an interest in the culinary field, like my high school students as well, because I teach in Valencia and I teach at the West Ranch High School, and so my students over there, I have 50 students every week, and so they enjoy cooking at the early stage of high school, and by me being able to share with them this experience, I think to me it's a blessing, and I'm very blessed to have this opportunity to share. So,
I just did an interview. This is very interesting what you just said, though. I want to make mention of it. So I just did an interview with named Dr. Rippey, and he was speaking about snacking, and he was talking about popcorn, Orville Redenbacher popcorn, and the 25 or so % of children and adults that are obese, right?
Right.
But I'm looking back now, thinking, in school, we at one point, what the heck was the name of that subject? If we would teach what you're doing, like you're teaching in a high school, so obviously your principal of that school system is ahead of the game, because teaching cooking and learning about food will give people an appreciation. In other words, if someone sees this protein and you're at school, maybe when they look at the ingredients in what people put down as junk food, right? Mm-hmm. It'll change their life. Maybe this is the way that obesity can be cured, by teaching in schools healthy cooking, healthy eating.
Exactly. And so that's a lot of things that we show them how to do it, and at the same time, don't go buy your food. Why don't you make your food? Because then this way you can control your salt content, you can control your fat content, you can do this, and at the same time you're improving your skills. Because going and buying your food, and then just taking it home, to me that's too easy. But teaching a student in high school to make their own food, they now really appreciate the whole process of making the food, and at the same time, they keep themselves moving in the kitchen.
Okay, some action going on in the back. You got to get back to cook.
Yes,
they got a big
thank you so much.
Okay, Louis, thanks. Pleasure speaking with you. Best
Likewise.
of luck. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good day.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.